Comments made after yesterday's video mentioned the terrible fate Bernie Madoff experienced through his children. In this video, I'll link his chart to his children, though I realize this is a truly sad, tragic, and very confronting theme. It does provide us with really powerful astrological correlations. 2 years after his arrest and incarceration, Mark, his oldest son, took his own life at the age of 46. And 4 years after that, in 2014, his younger son, Andrew, lost his life to cancer at age 48. I won't look in detail at their two charts other than to tell you their tragic outcomes reflect the very theme I'm intending for this video, which is related to Jupiter, the great benefactor, the planet considered best, most fortunate, in some ways most everything. The problem is, as appears to be so true in life itself, all of that is true until it isn't. Or, in the famous words of one of my favorite Zen masters, not always so. Or alternatively, as expressed in a common phrase, it depends. This in no way means Jupiter is to be demoted from its dominant status as the planet most likely to shower life blessings upon you, but even so, you have to be careful, because just like any other planet, it represents archetypal energies that, misunderstood and especially misused, can mean they will turn against you, and sometimes in rather terrible ways. Jupiter is all about growth, expansion, and optimism, but if you use your imagination, you will easily conceive situations where this might become a problem. For example, optimism turning into arrogance or indulgence, need turning into want, and then into greed, and so on. I already said in the last video that Bernie's chart displays a really strong Jupiter that was sure to take him to high places, but also that its excessive strength, being so close to the horizon, coupled with its square to Venus at the zenith, and most importantly, by far, because he made decisions to connect to it in an unwholesome, overexpansive way, so he eventually found himself serving life in prison. The thing is that Jupiter happens to be the ruler of his fifth, which is the house of children, and it would be during his years in jail that first Mark, his oldest, committed suicide, and it is said that it was directly related to the shame he felt on account of his father's demise, together with the social ostracism he and his family had to endure. And then, only a few years later, Andrew, his youngest, died from the return of a cancer that had been in remission, and it is strongly intimated the stress of the social rejection he and his family were enduring had a lot to do with the deterioration of his health. Earlier I mentioned that the death of each of the sons reflect the Jupiter theme of this video because it is really striking to see that Mark, probably a sensitive Pisces, took his own life with Jupiter in Pisces and near his sun, which is just about the opposite of what you might expect from ever-optimistic and expansive Jupiter. Instead, he decided he would express Jupiter expansion by leaving the Earth plane. And in Andrew's case, he succumbed to lymphoma 4 years later with Jupiter and Leo trining his Aries sun, which again is not exactly what you would expect, since Jupiter trines tend to be when we feel best and when better things are likely to happen. So in summary, Jupiter can be great, fabulous actually, but not always so, and it depends. And for Bernie and his children, and therefore as their collective family karma, Jupiter manifested the infrequent but still very real downside of its expansive nature, because the archetypal forces it represents were embodied by the father in dark and disharmonious ways, and the damage spread to his sons, and Jupiter couldn't save any of them.